Our values influence our leadership through our behaviors. How do we define values? And how do they influence our perception? Why would stereotypes in perception matter to a half-orc paladin in Dungeons & Dragons? Values represent what we care about and how we want to act in pursuit of our goals. A paladin in Dungeons & Dragons has values codified in oaths that define how they should behave, strictly follow the rules, punish people harshly, and what their end goal is, like serving the god they have sworn fealty to. Values are essential to leadership because we use them to guide our behaviors and set goals. End values are what we believe about the final results: goals, outcomes, or achievements. Instrumental values are what help us behave according to what is important to us, sticking to rules, being honest, or staying true to our identities. A paladin with an oath of devotion swears to the tenets of honesty, courage, compassion, honor, and duty. These are their instrumental values. If they follow a god of justice and mercy, their end goal might be to free and oppress society. But how does this paladin recognize oppression when he sees it? Perception is the sense-making tool that we use to understand ourselves and the people around us. We do this by learning and categorizing based on our experiences and knowledge. It can work for us by helping us learn how to respond to people, but can hurt us and others when we fall into negative habits. Some of these negative habits include stereotyping, the halo effect, and projection. Stereotyping is a habit where we assign an individual to a larger group or category, and then place generalizations on them. Something like Thog the Paladin, who serves a god of justice and mercy, is a half-orc. Even though he is a paladin of justice and mercy, because Thog is a half-orc, people assume that he must be chaotic or evil. Negative bias based on what race someone is, or racism, is often rooted in stereotypes, just like many other prejudices. When people make games that have fantasy racism based on stereotypes like how we frame half-orcs as chaotic and evil, they can legitimize prejudice and even mimic real-life issues. In real life, when we use stereotypes, the majority of the time it causes harm. Part of what leaders need to do is overcome stereotypes and see people as individuals. Otherwise, we're not doing our best. The halo effect is especially relevant to paladins. It's about developing an overall impression of a person or a situation based on one characteristic, like, I don't know, what god's symbol is on your shield. It can be a good or bad impression, but just think about how powerful that can be. If you hear that a paladin follows a god of justice that reflects your values, you might not acknowledge later reports of them violating the law. This is part of why I say there are no good people. When we decide that because a person did something good, they are wholly good, we risk dismissing their failures and the harm they do. If we say that someone is good, and don't examine their continued actions and behaviors, they can do harm without consequence. Projection is basically when we see our traits in other people. That would be like if a paladin was leading an adventuring party, and because they swore an oath to punish all sinners, they assumed that the rest of their party would feel the same way. Now, a lot of the time, people in an adventuring party will have the same or similar goals, but this is where those instrumental values can get tricky. Maybe everyone agrees that there should be some sort of punishment, but not everyone thinks that they need to be violent or harsh about it. When the paladin acts on their oath and strikes someone down, it causes a crisis. The paladin has projected their values onto others, and now it's caused harm to the group and to the person that they punished. Leaders need to make sure that they understand the boundaries between themselves and their followers, and not project their needs or values onto people. Otherwise, it can get very messy. Perception is influenced by our values, which can change how we act with other people and how we pursue our goals. Once we understand our values and learn to examine our perception, we can work on actionable plans, mental models for guiding our behavior. In the next episode, we'll talk about mental models and how to create principles of action. Look in the description below or on our Patreon post for links to the sources for our definitions and examples, and for an exercise on defining your values and examining your perceptions. I hope you'll share your thoughts and viewpoints in the comments below. This episode was made possible by your support at patreon.com/leadingwithclass. Special thanks to Lauren Pruitt and Kimberly Lamb for sponsoring this episode. Help make future episodes by supporting Leading with Class on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, half-orcs are still whole people.